And we're off and running. Good morning. It is July 30th, 2026. It's time to keep the powerful voice under wraps. And it's been in development the last couple of years, the next level of intensity. After, of course, for those of you that are brand new to me, public speaking since 2004. And the record shows what I've stood for and where I have been consistent. And so every day, folks, it's spiritual warfare. Each and every day. But especially if you're walking a certain path and if you're speaking of certain truths combined with being different, but some of you may not be as different, but you may be like on the road doing good things. But I'm telling you, when you do add that other element that you know that I deal with, you deal with people that think that they have the right and authority, the responsibility even to call the authorities when someone is speaking because simply they feel threatened by the light. And we have to work to raise. That's what's actually going on right now on the earth. There is a spiritual war. There are not threats. There are not people being too loud. And if that was the case, you wouldn't have nightclubs and you wouldn't have stadiums and you wouldn't have certain things taking place. Thanks. Appreciate it. In which they make noise. So they like noise. It's what kind of noise do they like? They like noise pollution. They like light pollution. They like all these other forms of pollution. But spirituality is a form of pollution and toxicity to dark beings. And dark beings, whether you call them demons, archons, jinn, asura, these things have been around for thousands of years. What it is there are people in our world that want us to be in a unified culture where we do not identify the existence of demons. But I will tell you, and see, it's all set up for the person who even walks down that road to be seen as the crazy one, when in fact, it's the brilliant one. Now, do I walk around at all times with the voice in the sheath, with the safety on? No, I'm trigger happy still, knowing that the voice of reason and sanity is going to be shattering astral glasses, if not physical. Real glad that I found my card just now, by the way. So I need to get my psychology in the mood. So what happened last night was a damper. But I somehow, there was something that happened positively afterwards, which I'll talk about in a minute. It's not all bad. In the act of defiance, in the act of whatever happened there, and I'll talk about it in a minute, somebody interesting came by and she subscribed to the channel. So I really hope that she can learn something from it and that she can apply it to her current situation. And that if she wants to talk further, we can talk further. And then we have Rebecca, who is there, who has spent time in Crestone, who has her understanding of the cult-like behaviors of the people and why she left. I'm interested what her experience was, where she was. Seems like a lot of people have come and gone from the Baka that have had their run-ins with whatever's going on. I actually need to keep hearing the perspectives from others because it's not limited to like one understanding. The different understandings need to overlap, right? That's what you need to do as an investigator. You need to get the different. It's like I'm a modern Chris O'Brien. And that's the other thing. I'm coming up there without even knowing that my former guest who wrote Enter the Valley, sounds like Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee, Enter the Valley, Mysterious Valley, he's now deceased. And he's the one who lived in Crestone for many years, who investigated the various paranormals and maybe was a little bit paranormal himself. It takes one to know one. So there's the light and the dark. And yes, so there's lots of stories about tweaker sorcery up the North Crestone Trail. Someone's going, what? Yeah. Think about a modern culture where people are so screwed up that you got pockets of tweakers that are going up into the caves. And when you have that kind of being dominant, being regular, that's not spiritual enough. That's actually an interference. Any of that type of drug activity, obviously fentanyl, that type of stuff is going to create a demonic interference, which is going to create an energetic toxicity for wannabe spiritual masters like me. But you can pause. Being that I escaped Portland, Oregon many, many years ago, and people thought I couldn't and shouldn't. Why would you? And look at him now. Through living in filth, you can activate, like being in a drug recovery program for heroin in the 90s, with heroin being sold outside, that'll make you strong. If you even have it within you to be strong and not go back out. So now let's get to the story. Previously on Colorado Dreaming, we talked about like what appeared to be a group possession of a group of people at the town park at Crestone when I'm doing my talks like I am right now. Coming to you now from a place of mostly safety at McDonald's where I've never, just don't even say it. Don't jinx yourself. The point is you would think that I'd be somewhere in town doing this, talking about worldly issues and global issues and futuristic patterns and psychic impressions. And ironically, it's actually going down at a McDonald's, but continuing. And I see the Wicked Witch of the East, excuse me, I see what could be considered Hitler's super babe. Not that there's anything wrong with somebody looking sexy. She just, her whole thing is super woman, I'm super developed. And thus she was just radiating this supremacy ick, that you don't normally pick up from a human or a female, but it was ick. It was I think she came from the Netherlands. Nothing wrong with that. So the point is they're in a flock, right? They're in a network. What comes to me is like a network of computers with an operating system that aren't going to understand other software, might even reject it or attack it, give it a virus. If it comes in, and ironically, I left Crestone with a virus. So we had that situation where I tell the kids to shoo, and they play this, did you just threaten me card? And then they call the authorities. And then I have to deal with that interference, that ire. And then even though they can't do anything, they're sending a message that, yeah, we can harm you. And we have the power and we have the immorality at the parental level to allow it to happen. So I'm coming back, also getting over a brief illness with more phlegm coming out than I've ever noticed before. And there does seem to be belief systems that I've aggregated or accrued from AI between spiritual attacks and sudden illnesses. So then last night, after a couple of days of looking for my lost cat over by the Safeway in Salida, but it might be by the river, that incident clearly happened because of the situation with Crestone and moving. And then coming into the parking lot at Safeway with the windows down, cat jumps out. Cat's done it before, but now we're at, the fourth day? And so it's possible that I'm going to lose my cat of 8 years over this. This isn't the time to cry about it or attribute too much blame, but it's not blameless. You have to be able to be intelligent enough to look at, okay, what happened at a certain point in time? What happened right before this? What happened right before I lost the cat? What happened to lead me to come to Salida? Call the police on me. Then I have to deal with good cop, bad cop. And I'd love to hear other people's stories along the road and what they've dealt with police. And so last night, I'm walking towards the park. This is before I met that one female. There was actually a few that I was talking to briefly when the police were called. And then I see the mother of them who knew that I didn't know wrong, who heard my public speeches like others at that park. And based on what they've heard from me, as you can hear, some of them also, if you go to Colorado Dreaming on Substack. And that's my thinking. If someone listens to what you're all about, and then they seek to oppress, then they're trying to, shut down the message, essentially. So when I saw them, I noticed that their little one pointed me out and says, that's him. That's the guy. And he was kind of smiling, but I said, I did nothing wrong, right? We're good, right? He nodded his head, but hopefully he wasn't afraid. But the mother was like, and so this is something that I'll notice with young people, and some elderly. They'll have a sense of trust. And it's unfortunate that I'm not a dad. I love the song. This song I've been listening to a lot. It's called Shattered Dreams. And I'm having to rebuild my dreams, my finances. I used to own my own land. And I want to find a partner. I want to find my cat. I want to go camping. And I want to write a book. And want to create a whole new world without them. I'm running out of time. So I told her off without being too loud. As I read her energy and I saw that she had no compassion, that she was not remorseful, that she was hateful. Then I told her that I would tell the truth about what happened. I told her that I would put it on the internet. I told her that I would speak out. I told her that this was not over. And then I stepped back 100 feet and sat down and began to breathe and breathe and breathe and breathe, doing exactly what I do best. And it's because I'm so good at what I do to them that I need training. Oh, dear God, please help me. I need a fucking teacher. Pray for me, guys. I need a sensei. I need a guide. I'm so fucking powerful now. And I can do things to these people, but the people don't understand, or I can do things to these entities that are controlling these people. And I was born with a warrior spirit. And I'm sitting there talking to Giovanni, Gypsy Fox, last night on the phone. But he doesn't have the answers for me. And he has to end the phone call sometimes because it's too high octane. I need to find somebody to teach me. Because what I'm dealing with is like a loaded lightning rod. Okay, and while the humans on the ground don't understand what's going on, I understand what's going on. I have abilities. Giovanni calls them X-Men abilities. And they're not limited to the streets. I know they extend into other areas. What I'm capable of. It can't extend into areas of pleasure. My body, my existence, wasn't created to be lost just in pleasure, sexual pleasure, making money, doing drugs, eating tasty food. Another day, we can continue the conversation of what a conscious community looks like when they're eating amongst each other. I already did the podcast yesterday. It's 3 hours uploaded, but it's not yet uploaded to YouTube. So you're going to have to wait for that. So these long form podcasts are coming to YouTube. It's not just going to be this. It's going to be walking around town, speaking into the cell phone, speaking truth to power around people with an audience of 50, an audience of 100. And for a while, it was really exciting. But the negative entities will fire back, will possess people to hear things that weren't actually said, simply to shut down the broadcast. Even if the person isn't thrown in jail, their agenda is to traumatize that person so they will think twice about helping those people. Furthermore, if we weren't a society, and Gypsy isn't perfect on this, constantly labeling people pedophiles or suspected pedophiles if they aren't Jim Rizzoli, as if he's the only one who's capable of not being that, that really, really was unusual behavior. And I'm going to call out unusual behavior that's not in line with the truth of spirit. There's way more people than he understands that would help kids. And there's a lot of things that are really messed up being done to kids in Gaza by the IDF. So like when we talk about kids, be holistic. Selective caring about kids is really unusual to me, and I don't vibe to that at all. Okay. Horrible things are being done to kids around the world as a result of the military-industrial complex. When you talk like that, and you talk so exclusively, it sounds crazy. Because the reality is these kids have no education now. And they're set up by the school system, by the media, and their parents who are kids themselves to grow up and have bad things happen to them, or to become criminals because the whole internet now is set up to support the criminal activity and behaviors, to support bullying with technology, and then to turn people completely away from any understanding that they're going to be reborn in the worst form of the bullied in the future. It's the way nature works. Anyway, without getting too deep, they can hear my sermons at the park, hear that they're unorthodox and that they're street sermons in reality of the kind that's addressing what's happening around us, addressing what's happening in the news, addressing what's happening with solar flares, being completely non-political and inclusive to anybody's belief system. That's how good I am at what I do. So she can sit there and observe that from across the pond. And like the others in Crestone, but it's good to get this confirmation so that we know what we're dealing with. Threatened by a person who owns. Not that I own all the time, it's that supposedly that's associated with spirituality, and supposedly they're trying to make it like I'm doing something wrong. But when you sit down and you own, and you pray to Jesus or declare Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior, and they're still attacking you, then you can get confirmation that yes, it's a spiritual attack. You did nothing wrong, and that you cannot rationalize with that person. So what I'm painting a picture for you is a microcosm of a macro, where you cannot rationalize with certain people that are in deep with the devil. And the devil, clearly, however you call it, that's put extremely wicked spirits in the bodies of the extremely beautiful. But that does not mean that you can look at a big woman who refuses to exercise and take care of her body, 300 pounds, and go, she has it together because she's a Barbie doll. Having gone down that route, having lived with a 300-pound woman who was psychic, I came to see that my life was nearly destroyed. And so don't judge a woman because she works out and takes care of her body. The ultimate woman or man, but I'm not gay. And I'm proudly a little homophobic now. Proudly, because they've taken it too far. The perfect woman works out. The perfect woman eats healthy food. The perfect woman likes martial arts. The perfect woman likes intelligent men. The perfect woman understands the nature of good and evil. Is it man and woman? The perfect woman is a teacher, is a therapist, actually gives back to society. The perfect woman is probably on planet B, which I'd like to create for God. But if someone wanted to be the perfect woman in the real physical world, they would face opposition. They would face bullying from women. They would face misogyny from women. And that's ultimately what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a misogyny planet in which women are suppressed by women, and they don't even know it. Well, they'll call the man who wants to protect them the bad one. And so what was interesting about that night, last night, is that I apologize for the sound. In the future will it's not the worst food to start the day with. It's not the best. But I'm not 100% broke right now. So it would be nice to take somebody out for dinner who wasn't deeply involved with someone. I got to be honest with you, it'd be nice to rescue somebody without being too forceful, but being able to go ahead and take the incentive and take somebody by the hand and go, do you need to be rescued? Do you want to go camping? Do you trust me? I don't walk up to strangers and do that type of stuff. I'm thinking if they can find out what I'm talking about on the block, and if I was to see them around the block periodically, maybe then. Gypsy's like, tell me more. Tell me about the bitches. There aren't really bitches here, Giovanni, but yes, they are. They are, but they're not. It's complicated. But what I will tell you is there is a hottie sweetie pie here who's sweet on me. Thing is, she's got cuts up and down her legs from self-mutilation. She's on the Baphomet path. Gypsy's like, yeah, can I get her number? I don't know if I want to play with that, but as above, so below. I know I'm somewhat of a magician, but I don't know if we should cross those paths. But I know that she's curious. On day one, when I came up here and I went up there at the campsite, she asked me for some water. I told her I had some spiritual books that were stashed. She asked to borrow one. I loaned her one. I thought maybe I'd give it to her. She gave it back. Do you know what the title was? Do you care? And do you realize that maybe I sent an implant? And do you realize maybe it was received? The title of the book was DNA of the Gods. Yeah. And so now do you see Daniel's son and others? Maybe you'd have to have the eyes to see and ears to hear, where they would even consider nuking Mesopotamia and ancient lands in the future. Although they're not really doing it now, the messaging is there, it's coming. And then, of course, this agenda, which they'll likely pull off, unless a major intervention, the calling of the Middle East. And why would that be? For the overall supernatural agenda of owning the earth. In order to do that, they feel like they have to get rid of certain spiritual frequencies that currently exist on the earth. So I was recording a vlog, and then at one point I got vocal and loud about my cat. And so I blamed them for the cat. I think I went off on the I am somebody speech, started to go down the roster of the famous people that I've interviewed. Some of them that actually helped Trump come to power. It's not really something to say that I'm bragging about, to say that in the beginning, when he wasn't the focus, there were influential people that were talking about relevant things that knew me, who were in my circle, and I was in theirs. The guy known as Alex Jones was very different back in the day, but I wasn't in his inner circle. But there was always overlay, because in the early days after 9/11, there weren't a lot of us. That's a message of those of you females that are in your 20s. And it's like, I got involved in this when you were being conceived, which is great. It'd be great to draw some people to me that are above 18, that are under 30, and in some cases older, because like there's certain, so they can learn. And then of course it'd be great if people's children could learn by watching the appropriate videos with their mom. And then in a couple of years from there, because I think I could have been building relationships and friendships with conscious people all these years, if this conscious people were ready to meet me, or if I was what type of guy they were looking for in the matrix, if I met those physical requirements. Because you got to get more than a few requirements to actually create life. And to create life through a relationship, that's actually very important, so someone can carry on your legacy, your legend, your message. Because what I'm doing with right now on the newsletter, I'm not dealing with people that are family. My mother wants no part of it. My father wants no part of it. Neither of their family members want no part of me and what I'm doing. My father's family being from the Middle East and being mostly immigrants, with their children being the born here. And then of course you have my mother from Aurora, Oregon, grandson of Bill Nagel. Everybody's dead that I can tell. Yeah, for the most part, everybody's dead. And the family farm has sold. So those roots that I have in rural Oregon are gone forever. Now that Bruce is dead. My uncle Bruce is dead. He died in Cove, Oregon in 2025. Never got a chance to talk to him in his last final years, because honestly, I never thought that Bruce liked me. Ever. To talk about my mother's blind spots with that would take a long time. It would bring me down further. But she would continue to venerate bad men in my presence and behind my back. That never helped me. And so through that experience, being raised by that white new age feminist from Portland, she failed to make me gay. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a failure. I'm an effing failure. She failed to make me gay. And I ended up being masculine, psychic, and then she wanted to turn on the concept of being psychic while she played witchcraft games in the 80s. So I will talk about it. People like my mom are right here, the next generation, right here in town. And they think that they have divine authority to rule their child's life without a father. Divine authority, as in from the gods. Now that type of psychosis is for a limited hangout. You know, it's almost like there's a war on that child to make sure that there is no stability. And these mothers are not thinking about what's going to be happening to that child down the line. If they don't have a father figure, if they don't have somebody to look up, and that's the thing, maybe they think that these males have had too much support and they need to be taken down a few notches. Maybe they think that's what they need to do, is break us down to be submissive for the day that we meet some woman that would take us, destroy our lives, and throw all of our belongings out a window. It's almost a part of a plot from the devil. And so I'll pace myself and be appropriate with my language at Riverside Park, where I speak into my cell phone about the nature of conscious parenting in the age of democide. And democide is a terminology for the government straight up killing people. Okay, and so that's the future through the video games, through the violent pornography, where they simulate World War III on a woman. Now, of course, if they're going to simulate World War III on a woman in pornography and someone's watching it at 3, of course they're going to do it somewhere else where it's legal, where it's illegal here. Come on, McFly. Come on, McFly. Am I really the first one to tell the world this? I'll be nice to whoever's watching this and try to minimize some of these statements. But on that point, though, for people that like to see me fired up, I'm going to be shouting at the devil big time, literally. It's called the Dallas Sun Express. All right. If you could see what I've seen and felt the impressions that I felt, and look what's happening in Dallas now, there's like the Alex prophecy unfolding. Okay. We're talking about white nationalists marching on Dallas, screaming Jesus, 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 but they're actually the furthest thing from Jesus, which is the most terrifying thing, because that can turn people away from Jesus if you're misrepresenting what Jesus' teachings are, and then you put the banner on it for something that would be attacking Jesus. So that's what we have there with that thing. We have the end of all THC consumption coming up today. So today, okay, I'm getting a message from God. I don't know if there's this. Could it be possible that through my journalism and what I start pouring into Dallas, because I'm going to have limited people here interested in Salida, Crestone, but if I start zapping the human trafficking mafia reality of Dallas, Texas, what type of positive yield can that return to me? Because you know what I want. I want to rescue somebody. In the same way that that degenerate found me through accident on the internet, through his supposed psychic abilities. What about a real princess in the making? A goddess of an Hispanic. And for me to look at her with respect and venerate her, not just that type, but that is something that I want to get close to. And whatever she opened up demonically really set that in regression. You know, because everybody has a dark side. And I don't want to marginalize any racial group of having a dark side. But when you get shacked up with people that are different, if they have a spiritual tradition that's too different than you, it might be, if you don't have a deep bond spiritually, those spiritual differences, oh, I totally believe this is the truth. Those extreme spiritual differences can break the people apart. There could be an interference amongst the ancestors and the spirits. And they, you know, my mother coming to visit me in Dallas created a really bad energy when she walked in the house. And the animals were terrified of her. She clearly was walking with a great deal of entities that she brought from New York. And my greatest sense was her only interest in being there was just to drop a few off. What do you think about those apples? And unfortunately, that is the sad truth about what the New York City lifestyle has done to her. Because since that time, she's only gotten meaner and meaner and meaner and meaner to me, like in her old age, which is really scary. Because I like to think about growing older and becoming wiser, closer to God, not becoming more of a creature. So she's always been a really bad example to me and an energy to me. And if I'm not careful and I'm letting her watch my videos, which she is now at coloradodreaming.substack.com, I've signed her up via email. She gets a via email along with all my viewers, except for you 4 people. 95% of my viewers are coming from Substack because the YouTube matrix is a toilet bowl consciously. And if you only do YouTube, it's I don't suggest it, but you can do what you want. I always suggest that you explore the rest of the free internet and you understand that YouTube has side effects. Let's move on. I had to get away from YouTube story time to really get my power back. I had to focus on the audience that I selected on Substack that had what it took. I did my vlog and my written letters to the editor. So I challenge all of you when you're reading articles and you're in read mode to read my words at Colorado Dreaming. Gypsy, Rebecca, she's reading because she's on the Facebook. Storytime and the new female. So there's 4 of us. And I want to say that I'm throwing compliments to all 4 of you. Now, if all 4 of you want to reciprocate, maybe we can start dabbling in some amateur meditation hour. Or just by thinking about it. I remember one time I was talking to Gypsy, but I think it was a bit much for him because, I was summoning like Eastern Indian masters like Brahma, Vishnu. And he's like, oh shit, I got to go. But the idea, because he's more of the Jewish Kabbalah tradition, which I don't really understand, but I'm sure there's overlay. But it's the idea is the Dion Fortune style of synchronized visualization using symbols and shit to deal with basically energy clearing. That dude back there was like, I gotta get away from this guy too. The other thing is when I'm trying to order food on the kiosk, it takes me 5 minutes, and I'm starting to feel like I'm a character from the movie Idiocracy. I'm starting to feel like the machine wants me to start punching it. It's very unusual. In the modern day and age, I should just go do. It really shouldn't be complicated. But we'll just stop before that conspiracy theory goes on for another 10 minutes. But literally every time I come up to that thing, I'm reminded of that movie Idiocracy. And then in the movie Idiocracy, to remind you, it then takes her money, it gasses her, said she's a bad parent, and says the government is on the way to collect the kids. Now, there you go. That's another one. That's actually quite sad. Here's one for you. Not to make anything more depressing, but since we're on a roll, how messed up would it be then for a spiritual mother who loves her child? Oh, God, man. If anybody thinks I need to run to the aid of anybody journalistically about good mothers who had their kids taken by the state just because they try to raise them without vaccines, without poisons, then we need to run to their aid. At the same time, we have bad mothers out there that are getting paid by the system to churn out human after human that they don't actually care about. And they're doing it here, and they're doing it in Australia, and while they do that, and they pay them to do that, they'll just be like the nature of nasty websites on the internet, like Motherless. Placating on and then I'm looking at that scientifically going, oh my God, this is actually, somebody should write a paper about that. We need to have an adult non-sexual conversation about how bad parenting and abandonment turns to this wicked world of pornography, which as well as I know, not to judge, didn't exist as it is 50 years ago. Now, if you haven't unloaded your breakfast yet, it's still early. So check this out. Notice how people are always talking about, they're coming to hurt us and rape us in the booty. I'm so scared. Hear it. Now think about this. Those bad websites that I talked about, they're not made by the Muslims. But did you know that, though? Yeah. Guess who makes them? They're not going to tell you. But guess who gets to watch those websites? Who? Just us in Oregon? The whole world. Meditate for reflection. Who's really controlling the world? Sure, it's the people in Gaza. Tell me another one. Who are the real villains? Who are the real Nazis? The Palestinians? What the fuck, bro? Look into my eyes and say that. Okay, so what's really going on? Now think about it scientifically and be an adult about this. They have been attacking the world with hardcore, crazy content, which is straight from the Fourth Reich. Meanwhile, they do mass importation while they like destroy entire lands. They can literally create crazy people out of nothing through warfare, like just like torturing people like insects for decades. Then they can literally go, "Oh, you're a criminal. Let's do this." So later in the future, we have a mass deportation campaign. Now, is any of this vibing with you? That's all I've been saying for years. I'm a consistent freedom fighter, truther from all the years. I don't change my tune. You look at my warnings from 2012, they match my warnings of 2026. They created everything that you are facing in order to trap you, get you to do something wicked, so that they then possess your soul. Enter the AI data centers. Okay? The AI data centers are, in my sense, not just there for data. And what is this thing called data? Little thing called love? No. No, the movie Ghostbusters is coming to mind. What else is coming to mind? I mean, really bizarre sorcery. But it all comes down to, now I'm just speaking automatically. Do you recall seeing those articles about those cookies that are tracking everywhere that you're going, everything you're doing? You see, somebody would have to be aware enough to realize there would have to be a purpose for that first to be used at a later point in time. Could it be, and I'm just asking questions, put the gauntlet down, relax, you're safe. Could it be that there was some sort of observation from internet surveillance that is potentially tied into the evil one? I know I'm going off on a deep end, aren't I? Who's looking to get dirt? And so, just keep talking automatically like you know something. What if the absence of spiritual protection from the Lord or God through repenting and that type of thing? Wow, this is getting scientific. This is like Christian Science. What if the devil then is looking for people that they would say are not saved? But I would use a different language. I would say have lost their soul or level of frequency. So thus, through internet surveillance, wrapping things up here, they can figure out who the evil ones on earth to keep on the earth that are not saved, whereas others that are trying to go off grid, get away from the technology, cleanse themselves, be in nature, be kind, obviously, and all that entails, giving. So let's talk about it. The reason I'm here is because they exemplify more of those attributes, the locals exemplify more of those Christ-like attributes. We're not talking about the LGBT crowd at all. They're actually some of the biggest angry folks when I walk in the door. So praying to God during the sunrise here. I have these books in my car relating to the Son of God concept, Son of God, S-U-N. We're going to go ahead and take a look at time here and figure out when we're going to exit. We're 38 minutes into this. It's probably a good time to wrap things up. 44 minutes is also a good time to wrap things up. So I like angel numbers. And I told myself today, preserve your energy, get your focus. If you do think that you are working for the heavens and that you are on assignment on earth to expose Dallas, Texas, then you need to do that. If you believe in angel numbers, if you believe in magic, and you keep seeing DFW or DFX, which I am, this is clearly a sign that I am chosen to do that story. And who's to say you're not chosen? I am chosen. I am chosen. Sunrise is coming at me right now. To write the story. Dallas, Texas is a human trafficking matrix where women are meat. And it's so bad that they're affected up here. And somebody out there deserves to be saved. somebody out there deserves. Husband's a strong word, but they've got to want to believe. They've got to want to believe in love. They've got to be willing to believe that it's worth it to be with someone decent and override that tendency to be with the bad boy, the giant, or the type of colored man that society is authorized to reproduce. And right now in our culture, it's black. That is the only one that's authorized. And a lot of them don't understand that that's not inclusive. And they are also being programmed to be my oppressor, black and white. We need to find women that understand that they need to be inclusive to those kinds that are being wiped out for the greater good of spirituality, for the greater good of God, for the greater good of just not being a Nazi. There isn't really any real pushback if the attractiveness only goes to the same groups. And that's what the women don't yet understand about inclusive sexuality and parenting. I deserve to be a dad, and I deserve to be able to influence young people with parental supervision, morality. Because guess what? These little ones that are awake right now, they are so hungry for the truth. And we're not talking about the truth that you may be drinking up and coming from InfoWars, no offense intended, or it's on the internet, but a deeper truth and a much more deeper understanding of what's happening with the world's people. And I don't really see that from the older generation of conspiracy people that are just like everybody else. They more or less, no offense intended, are kind of locked into just what's going on with themselves. Whereas I'm thinking 50 years ahead and 100 years ahead. I've always been this way. I've always, long before this, was talking about writing books and literature to influence the next generation. I'm obviously talking about being a teacher who is being oppressed so that they can have their way with the kids as food. And who am I indicting in this? Parents who have been listening to me for years, who never thought that I was good enough to tell their kids about me. Those are people that are suspicious. No, you shouldn't be thinking that your kid will just make up the decisions for themselves. You need to be trying as much as possible to influence your children to not be Satanists and prostitutes. Because if you don't have that influence, it's going to happen, man. Sorry. That's why some of us are not having kids. These kids are marked as property of the New World Order government, dude. Get a clue, bro. And so that's the real reason a lot of these females on the dark side got dad out of the picture, because they're going to be a lot easier to manipulate for what they want them to do. There are countless supposed hippie type households where the image is all about being hippie, tie-dye, Pink Floyd, and open up your mind, bro. There's plenty of that in our culture that has nothing to do with being kind to your fellow sister and not hurting her in the booty. Modern metaphysics has all morality towards men and women removed. It's now just witchcraft. I just thought you should know. Now, when you deal with metaphysical people, you can have people that are into crystals and stuff that are totally fine with dictators being in power, raping women behind closed doors, drinking blood, that type of, well, that's what's coming. And then you have, of course, the veteran who fought for the United States, who just happened to have been Afghan. So he fought for them. And they rounded him up and they jabbed him. And now he's dead. What was all that talk about supporting the troops? What was all that talk about racism not really being a big deal? Fast forward a couple of years and people are literally being plucked off the streets. And I want you to think about it. I think it's crazy for people that are car campers that are being oppressed to not care about other people that are being oppressed. I can't sit next to that. I can't keep my stomach in. That's not the type of human that I am. When I think about one being oppressed, all being oppressed, regardless of nationality or color, which is why a person who is made this way is going to speak that way. Okay? Because I don't have a choice. I don't have the comfort of a tribe. I have to deal with a situation where I'm at the park and I have to deal with that lady taking my picture. She was taking my picture last night. So I'm sitting there I'm sitting there declaring that I'm a decent person, that she wronged me, that my cat's lost. And she's sitting there with her camera out, like her camera is a directed energy weapon. And while it's not a directed energy weapon, it represents, for those of you that haven't thought about it that deeply, it does represent a powerful weapon of white supremacy for her, because it's going to side with her, whatever she chooses to do. It's going to be using facial recognition, and the entity is going to be looking at her and looking at me, and clearly there's going to be like, well, this person is a Hitler superwoman, and then you are what she's determined as a quote creature based on what mental retardation has manifested as a result of her social media use. And so she'll filter out the praises of Jesus. She'll filter out the sermons. She'll filter out the good stuff. And then she'll be locked and loaded, even though she looks so pretty on the outside. Inside, there is something so reptilian, essentially, that's taking place, that a few other women are taking notice in the park and came in to maybe create a counterbalance, because it really is seeming at times that it is almost 100% female against me. Sure, I do have a newsletter where I have people that open it, but somebody opening up the newsletter and watching a video is not the same thing as supporting what you're saying. And then engagement in comments, that is positive, but that is also just internet based. What it really comes down to is your real world interactions with real world people. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. This will be about 100 video, 1 hour video, and I take pauses here and there. But I want to continue to get all this out, so I'm verbalizing it where it's not necessarily verbalized in my diary or journal. And I lost my diary 2 weeks ago, or one that I was working that I was made. I got so many journals in my car. It's not even funny. A certain person who works for DHS heard me complaining again about how they don't set up appointments here properly when it comes to mental health. You know what I'm getting at? Hey, I need to set up an appointment. It's very simple. The way that they keep running someone around the racetrack, like they might eventually schedule a therapist, but the therapist will be like incredibly rude, gaslighting, rolling their eyes, blaming the victim. And then you can talk about it and be like, I'm not going to place a grievance. Can you get somebody else? Then you find yourself in a meeting with a manager. You have to try, though, when you're watching me, story time, to visualize, because I'm different, what it's like in my shoes in that office. So if you already know that there's a strong, strong bias against people that look a certain way, that are perceived to be outsiders, imagine yourself in an environment where you're trying to calmly explain what hatred is to a person who's hateful, and why hatred is bad to a person who's in denial that he's an example of the problem that put me in the situation. Does that make sense? You'd have to be like super high IQ to even decode the English words that I just said. Otherwise, it might sound like schizophrenia. What I'm saying is I'm above average IQ. I can do his job. I can help them. And they're judging a book by its cover. Okay. And so these people that are in power, these people that are in power, not just in the government, but in social services and the therapy, man, it is like dealing with demons. I bet you that story time watching too, and he understands this. And they're feeding on pain and misery. And then that's why I need to watch more videos of other people that go through their things, so I don't take things personal, think everything is racism. I realize they're trying to provoke me 24/7. But because I am super emotional and I have those racial triggers and buttons, their demons will. So I got to develop some super silent mastery. Giovanni is still in training for some things, and sometimes thinks he's a master when he's a student. So he's not the one that can teach me. Although he might have some moments where the spirit will come out of him, but then there'll be another spirit that'll come in that might do some shit talking and tell me that my energy is off during a day of geometric storms, when he may not know that there is a geometric storm. That's what I'm getting at. You have to talk to people at the right moment when it's the right day for them. Otherwise, it could be argumentative. But he's all I've got. And what does that say about the world? What does that say about the Muslims that I've met? What does that say about the people in Portland that I've met? What does it say about the off-gridders that I met when I stood up for their right to live off the grid? It says a lot. And so it's through these podcasts that I'm going to talk. But I'm really going to work towards mastering the quiet voice where possible with the headset, so I can talk just like this and not get booted. And if I talk just like this for an hour, and I'm also getting super disciplined, pray to God, meditate, pray, and create the super sexy shield around me. Dude, I don't want to believe that I'll never meet a woman again. I got to be honest. The body craves it like it is water. And I'm not even talking about sex. I'm talking about like an agreement that we're not going to be slaves to hold someone. And it's okay for me to not be white or black. And the women now, they're not realizing that I have that trigger. And once they figure that out, they're like, oh shit. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You really need to do better and not allow my people to be wiped out. That's the only way a woman can really fight fascism, is to be kind to me and help me in my mission. They don't get that yet. And until they do that, they're just dancing, like pole dancing. Oh, you got my attention. Thought about you last night, honey. Routing me from behind. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, you got in my head. But is that what you wanted? Just to get inside my head? Sadly, it is. It is what they want if they're an energy vampire. But if they're a real woman, okay, who wants their child to do well, who wants to make sure their child doesn't get human trafficked and doesn't become a human trafficker, then they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that their child is going to be raised by the right people. And right now, we don't have that. And a lot of people are going to drop out of what I'm saying, even if they've listened to me for years, because it's just going to seem crazy to them. I'm going to keep talking about it. It's going to seem crazy to them that I should have family. It's going to seem crazy to them that I should have love. And these people will come out of the woodwork going, you should be alone. Or the Giovanni will come out with his extreme, no, you need to find someone who's just garbage like Sarah and get involved with her. And I'm like, no, dude. In fact, that's not even attractive. That's actually a little bit gross. Just try not to bring up that stuff and don't be forward with it. That's pretty to you. To me, that's the greatest nightmare. That's Nightmare on Elm Street. I see that problem coming a mile away. Welcome back, viewer. So we'll just keep talking. So what I'm saying is I do absolutely desire that I'm not going to get involved with like somebody who's like dating a meth head or something. There's like a female here in town, right? Who dates somebody who works here. I said it. Mm-hmm. She is fine, but she is crazy. And so if she wants to be clean, if she wants to work out, if she wants to wrestle, if she wants to abstain from doing drugs, if she wants to pray, if she wants to meditate, she just met all the requirements. But if she's going to come around praising Baphomet, doing drugs, going back to dude, and that's a setup for a physical confrontation. I don't want that. Praise Jesus. Praise Jesus. Okay, so what is going to be the formula for today's success? We center on the potential truth that I have been chosen ones, to carry out a mission, to pull, if I have any people from Egypt, from Dallas. I'm like Moses. People of the desert, people of the food desert, people of the fake marijuana, people of the human trafficking wasteland. Look at what I got. I used to be one of you. I used to be a slave. Now, I'm going to be telling you guys about a new channel because it's not all going to be stacked here. I have multiple channels, and one is called the Dallas Sun Express. I'll tell you about it, and I'll link it to you. And there's going to be some speeches where you're not attacked. They're being attacked. They're being verbally bitch slapped. You haven't seen me in that manner before, but I think you're going to like it. I think you're going to support it. I think they're going to support it because that's powerful. Sometimes we need to pull out the wand and point with the finger. You statements, because when you're talking about Dallas, Texas, there's a lot of shit to point at, and it just goes on and on and on. Now think about this: by having such like a big game to point at, the Tonka, by having such a big field, we're also fishing for I'm looking for souls, man. Listen, those females that are coming of age, especially the white Hispanics. Oh dear Lord. If only they knew what they were capable of with a Superman. That's all I'm saying. And they're just sitting there like fruit, waiting to be plucked by the New World Order. No morality, no parenting, hotter than hell. Okay? They're meat grinder material because they're not going to activate their soul essence to actually do anything about the system. So they're just sitting ducks. They, their brothers, everybody for this rape prison industrial complex either be literally the commanders and the people running the cells or the people being raped in the cells. You ever heard that song, you know, Sweet Dreams? Like, you know, some of them want to use you, some of them want. Not that anywhere's any different. I can't wait to get those Texas plates off my car. But coming up in the coming month, she will have sent me my title, my passwords, and I'm going to be back in black. I don't know if I'm going to go back to the main channel, but I'm going to have I got websites. I've got all. All I need is the right female partner who's got some brains, who likes to do secretarial work, and then we got to make some money. And once that kid is grown up and old enough, it's with a single mother who's got a kid of a certain age, some point he should be able to type and do English. We put him to work as a publisher. I mean, it's not that difficult, folks. A family that publishes truth or content in secret in the Colorado Mountains, what the fuck? And I know exactly where to go. And I'm not going to tell you. I'm starting to develop cards, folks, that I'm not going to upload to the internet. What do you think about that? By the way, you want to find out where I used to live? Here. Yeah. Look how fat they made me. Look at that. That's a fat boy. Yeah. That's a boy that's been eating his, that's a boy, he's been taking his meds. He quit marijuana, left Colorado, drank his orange juice, moved in with a big girl, and she began to influence me towards all things. And now that I'm away from her, I can feel God again. You know, I can feel things again. I can feel, the taste of food again. I feel the prayer to God, coming back. I feel the cosmic forces shining down upon me. I feel all these wonderful things. Sort of. Right? So it's about mastering the art of being alone in the state of Colorado. Okay, we've been going for about an hour now.